Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding a massive, foundational shift in how the market actually values financial technology. Just looking at the news from the past 24 hours alone, we're seeing this fascinating divergence in Wall Street sentiment. We're going to break down exactly what the market is telling us right now using real data that literally just dropped, so you can really understand the mechanics driving those financial apps sitting right there on your phone.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with a quick intro comparing big tech and fintech. Then, Act 1, SoFi's punished perfection. Act 2, unleashing Venmo. Act 3, better's direct equity. And finally, we'll wrap up with the big takeaways.
All right, let's get into it. The fintech vibe shift.
To set the stage here, let's look at the unifying theme of today's explainer. Over the last 24 hours or so, a stark contrast has emerged based on one really simple distinction. Are you building AI or are you moving money? Big tech is, well, they're absolutely feasting right now. Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta all dropped earnings this week showing that AI compute demand is very real, it's accelerating, and it is absolutely not slowing down. And the market? It's rewarding them handsomely. But then, there's fintech. Fintech is being graded on a drastically harsher curve. I mean, we saw Robinhood get totally smoked after a 47% drop in crypto revenue. And other companies are seeing their stocks punished despite posting actual record-breaking numbers. It's wild.
A recent edition of the FinTech Stacks newsletter summed this up perfectly. They wrote, "The vibe in fintech right now is, the report card is fine, but the teacher's still disappointed." I love that. This strict teacher analogy really captures the complex, honestly almost baffling market reactions we're seeing to what otherwise look like incredibly strong earnings reports.
Act 1, SoFi's punished perfection.
So what exactly happens when flashy consumer numbers meet a disappointed Wall Street? Let's take a look at SoFi. They just posted an absolute banger of a quarter, hitting a record $1.1 billion in GAAP net revenue for Q1 2026. That is up 43% year over year. By literally any normal standard, this is an incredible performance.
And the great news doesn't even stop there. Just look at these stats. GAAP net income more than doubled to $166.7 million. They added a record 1.055 million new members in just a single quarter, which pushes their total membership base up to 14.7 million. Oh, and loan originations, also a record, hitting $12.2 billion. So by almost every single consumer-facing metric, SoFi delivered a straight A-plus performance.
But then we get the market reaction. SoFi's stock experienced this whiplash drop of roughly 10% immediately following these record earnings. It really begs the question, right? Why on earth does a company posting its best quarter ever get completely smoked by the market?
Well, there were two primary reasons for the drop. First, management offered flat full-year guidance. They're keeping earnings per share around 60 cents and revenue at about $4.65 billion. Wall Street read this as a massive red flag, not just management being conservative, but a real warning sign. But the second, and arguably much more structural reason, is that Galileo, which is SoFi's back-end banking-as-a-service platform, saw its revenue absolutely crash. The underlying infrastructure was bleeding.
Specifically, it cratered by 27%. Galileo's revenue dropped to just $75.1 million. The main culprit here? Chime. They were a massive client, and they fully migrated off the Galileo platform last year. They took a huge chunk of really high-margin B2B revenue with them, leaving this massive hole that SoFi is now scrambling to fill.
In response to all this, CEO Anthony Noto is signaling a total rebrand and go-to-market overhaul for Galileo later this year. He also personally bought 56,000 shares of SoFi stock back in March at $17.88. Now, you can read that purchase as either incredible conviction or, serious cope, but the crucial point to take away is this. It doesn't really matter how shiny and successful your consumer app is if your B2B plumbing is broken.
Moving right along to Act 2, Unleashing Venmo's Hidden Value.
Now we're shifting our focus over to PayPal, where a brand new leadership team is finally restructuring a buried corporate asset to win back the market's trust. The asset in question has roughly 100 million users. Yep, Venmo's massive. It has long been PayPal's single most valuable asset, but simultaneously, kind of its most under-monetized one. It's been buried inside this larger conglomerate for years, making it really hard to see its true financial footprint.
Enter the new PayPal CEO, Enrique Lores, who took over in March after running HP. He is completely restructuring the company into 3 distinct segments. Step 1 is carving out Venmo into a fully independent operation. Step 2 is the traditional PayPal merchant and consumer business. And Step 3 is a payment services arm, housing Braintree and crypto. So, for the very first time in the app's history, Venmo is actually going to have total financial transparency.
Now you might be wondering, why does this matter? Well, because financial transparency sets up 2 very distinct possibilities. On the one hand, this could be the setup for aggressive, focused scaling. But on the other, it could totally be the setup for a sale. In fact, reports from CNBC indicate that competitors like Stripe are already circling as potential buyers. Simply by creating this structural transparency, PayPal stock actually popped 4%. After losing ground to Apple Pay and Stripe for years, the market is finally rewarding PayPal for treating Venmo like the standalone powerhouse it actually is.
And that brings us to Act 3, tapping home equity directly.
Pivoting away from corporate restructuring drama to pure product innovation, built entirely on modern infrastructure, Better just dropped a fascinating new product at Stripe Sessions 2026. It's called the Better Home Equity Card. It's a prepaid debit card built directly on Stripe's infrastructure, and it gives homeowners direct, immediate spending access to funds drawn from their HELOC. No waiting days for a bank disbursement, no managing complex payment methods. You literally just swipe a debit card to spend your home equity. And get this, it even earns 1% cash back.
This brilliantly illustrates the massive market inefficiency Better is trying to solve. U.S. homeowners are currently sitting on $21.4 trillion in tappable, untapped home equity. The median homeowner has about $276,000 in available capital. Yet, collectively, people are holding $857 billion in non-mortgage debt. The average homeowner is carrying almost $9,000 in debt, often charging expensive home renovations to credit cards at brutal 24% APRs. Better is using a simple debit card to bridge the gap between that massive pile of equity and that really expensive, high-interest debt.
Better is able to launch this in summer 2026 because of a concept called infrastructure plus product. By letting a back-end provider like Stripe handle all the complex plumbing, the card issuing, the account management, the regulatory compliance, Better is completely free to focus purely on what they do best: distribution and underwriting. This division of labor is exactly where the future of fintech is heading.
All right, let's bring it all together. The big fintech takeaways.
So, what have we actually learned today? Let's tie all 3 of these distinct case studies together by looking at our final report card. For SoFi, the lesson is super clear. Record consumer numbers just don't matter if your underlying B2B platform is bleeding. They need a Galileo win, and they need it fast. For PayPal, burying your most valuable asset inside a conglomerate suppresses its value. Breaking Venmo out into a transparent, standalone unit is exactly the structural fix the market wanted. And for Better, we see the future. Attacking massive trillion-dollar market inefficiencies by leaning on modern back-end infrastructure like Stripe. In all 3 cases, the message is identical. Flashy consumer apps are basically useless without strong, transparent, and innovative plumbing underneath.
Which leaves us with this final thought to consider. When you open your banking app today or swipe your favorite card, is your money moving on old, decaying rails, or is it riding on the infrastructure of the future? Wall Street has clearly made its choice on what it values. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.